Good morning. Thanks for choosing to journey with Judy this Sunday morning. We're what, Dave? The third week of Advent and down to, you better get your shopping done. And the good news is the show is going to be really good because I'm going to give you some shopping tips and some little tricks about how to get the most of customer serve us. Yes, serve us, customer serve us. But first, I got to tell you what I've been really noticing lately is the fog. Last week, I had an opportunity to go and speak. I've been speaking a lot. I have just so many speaking gigs on my calendar, and I'm just so grateful to God that He's opening doors that I never, ever would be able to open without Him. And so the good news is I prepare, I plan, and I pray about whatever and wherever it is that I'm going long before I actually get there. And so last week, I set the intention. That's some new language in my house since I'm going through this certification program. Is I'm setting intentions. And so I believe that when I set the intention for whatever it is, that it's going to happen. I just really believe it. And so I step into it. And I set the intention that I was going to crush this, to use my kids' terminology. I was going to kill it. I was going to crush it. I was going to walk away and know that I absolutely inspired, encouraged, maybe even did a little convicting of the people in the audience. And so I did everything I could. 5 a.m. wake up call so I could leave at 6 a.m. And I backed out of my garage, and it was obviously still dark. And it wasn't too long before I got up to the top of the driveway that I noticed, Dave, I had zero visibility. This fog lately was I could not see anything. And so, guys, you know that, I'm really not a good driver to begin with. And so if there's zero visibility for Judy Hehr, that's probably not a good thing. The good news was there was not a lot of people on the road. But the deal is I had set this intention, planned, prepared, and prayed. But when I started to step into it, there seemed to be this thing that was totally unexpected. And what I could see as clear as day became something that was absolutely not visible any longer. I could not see at all in front of me. And therefore, this thing that I had focused and I had visioned for my, kind of immediate future, it just all got all fogged up. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is someone, your host of the show is someone who doesn't even, how when your car gets fogged up, Dave, and your mirror you're not your mirror, but your window is so foggy you can't see. I don't even know what button to push. And since I can't see normally when it's foggy inside the car, I just usually drive around or I use my hand. So I always have this big handprint. But in this case, the fog was not inside. The fog was outside. And I'm wondering when it comes to this whole foggy thing, when you feel like you see something so clearly and then it becomes so difficult to see, what is it that you're thinking? I mean, are you any less convinced or convicted on the intention that you set? Or were you like me, just literally wondering how I was even going to get to my destination? So I'm wondering if you can relate to being completely intentional about your destination and then unexpected fog sets in and it puts it all into question. So let's talk about that when we get back. You are journeying with Judy right here on this third Sunday of Advent. And I just want to remind you that Advent is all about the love, the joy, and the peace and the hope that Jesus brings, because Jesus is the reason for the season. We'll be back. You are journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. And it's just a little foggy, but we'll be back. All right, so it wasn't a good morning that morning that I woke up and set out with this intention to absolutely crush this talk that I was going to get to give to a bunch of parents on the subject of parenting. Talk about, Dave, come on, who could give advice on parenting? Not Judy Hehr for sure. No, but so here's what I did. I made it clear to these people that it was not what Judy Hehr thinks you should do. It is what God thinks you should do in terms of raising godly children. So anyway, the deal is I was completely responsible, did all that I could, and it didn't turn out the way that it should. So, who's to blame in that case? I'm wondering. So I asked you that as we went to the break and said, when your intention was to get to this destination and unexpected fog sets in and it puts it all in question, what is it that you do? How is it that you either react or respond? And so I know in this case, I really couldn't blame anyone, Dave. There was no blaming. I did everything that I could do, and I just had to adjust accordingly. And that's when this whole thing about faith, the evidence of what's unseen. I got to be stepping into that and being a person of faith. But we live in a world that is not so much about faith as much as about blaming. The blame, right, Dave? We could have a show called Let the Blame Begin, right? So where God is trying to direct us and protect us and correct us, we really get to be responsible for our own life. And so I want to know today, if I asked you, are you responsible? I mean, really responsible for you? Yes or no? So answer that question to yourself, obviously, because we live in a world that allows us that gives us the right to be irresponsible. Dave, doesn't it? Doesn't culture promote us to not be accountable, not be responsible? And you know what? Because we look around and feel like if nobody else has to, then why do I have to, right? Is this like a familiar topic, Dave? Do you agree with me?
Yes, you've talked about it before, too.
Yeah, so the deal is like when you're being irresponsible, for some reason you don't notice it as much as when about somebody else. Like irresponsibility is kind of hard to see in the mirror. Even if you have a magnifying mirror like me that blows up every imperfection on your face, when you are looking at yourself in the mirror, irresponsibility is not as obvious to see. However, when you're looking at other people, Dave, it's like this glaring thing. There's scripture verses about, I should worry about the plank in my eye and not the speck in my neighbor's eye. But here's the deal is when it comes to like relationships, family, our companies, our nation, or our communities, irresponsibility breeds irresponsibility. Now, there's some cases that you can control, Dave. If something doesn't work out the way you think it should, you can control it. For example, my online shopping. I do have to do a little sidebar. This is kind of the little trick and tip. Dave, do you know that I almost call every place, because I started my shopping and it's done online, because it's so easy to just, push enter and whatever and put this in my cart. And anyway, so I feel like it's been very irresponsible of these retailers to try to bait me into their website and ordering more things because it had the discount. Do you know the discount? Like enter this at the end in the checkout. The promo code, which in my case is either already expired or it doesn't apply to the items I've chosen, because when I go shopping, I go right to the clearance tab and I shop from the clearance area. Well, I think it's totally irresponsible of the retailers to have like restrictions apply so small that not even I can't see it, right? So I just want to tell you, I have a little bit of bragging now, is my daughter Campbell wanted these $80 shoes. Now, I don't buy $80 shoes for my kids unless it's an occasion. She wanted these Nike shoes. Well, they didn't have them in stock. So I guess I was feeling a little entitled and I wanted to give my daughter what she wanted. And so I called Nike, told them to find the shoes. Like, you find them. Like, it's Campbell and she wants them. Like, she wants what she wants and I want her to have it. Anyway, they sent me to about 4 different stores to find the Nike shoes and they weren't available. So I had a great idea. I would design my own shoe, which nobody else would have, and then I would expect them to match the same price. Is that unreasonable? Yes. Okay, but it isn't because they did it. Okay, so I called Nike, told them my story, and she said, well, what? I said, I'm a very dissatisfied customer. I mean no disrespect, but tell me what you're going to do to make me happy and customer serve me. And so she gave me a $140 pair of shoes, Dave, customized with my kid's name on them. Nobody else is wearing these shoes for $80. Come on, is that so awesome? Wow. It has nothing to do with the show, but here's the deal. It made me everything. 104, and I did say something like, well, what if she doesn't like them? Can I return them and get the $140 back? Get it? When I only spent $80. Yeah. Anyway, so this whole thing about being irresponsible and responsible. So it's just so easy to see that irresponsibility in other people, which I'm pretty sure this woman at Nike was thinking about me, but I get to be responsible for me and you get to be responsible for you. But here's the problem, friends, is that what's rewarded is repeated. And so if we can get away with, Dave, you know this with your daughter, if you get away with something and you reward somebody for doing something that's less than responsible, then obviously we're going to just keep repeating history, right? So, but we are expected to carry our own burden and we're expected to clean up our own mess. I used an example the other day when I was speaking to these parents about conflict in areas that are manageable. And I actually took the 27 empty rolls of toilet paper off my kid's bathroom floor and threw them all over this church basement and was explaining that conflict, irresponsibility at that level, like my kid not changing the toilet paper roll and throwing it away, is something I can manage. But I guess if I'm not making them be responsible, with small matters, it would be really difficult to enable them or have an expectation of them to step into those bigger matters, because the little things absolutely become the big things. And we know that responsibility and like privilege and responsibility, kind of two sides of the same coin. So here's what I really love is that people of faith, as we're journeying and wanting to really live and look like Jesus in the things that we say and that we do, we get to be responsible to nobody other than God, right? So that's our only accountability factor. That's our only measurement of comparison is, what would Jesus do? And I've said to you, I say in my house, what would Judy do? Which is not a good, Dave, that's like where the ceiling becomes the floor. What would Judy do? But in this case, we want to say like, what would Jesus do? Because here's what Jesus knows about us. He knows that we are at our best when we are being responsible. Don't we feel so much better about who we are? Because I'll give you an example. I have a son, Chandler. I love Chan. He's so amazing. But one of my biggest things I wanted him to accomplish before he left for college was to be able to name the chinks in his armor. Now, what I mean by that is I wanted Chandler to be able to accept responsibility when he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And instead of blaming, like doing that blaming or feel even worse in the eyes of God is feeling shame. I never want my kids to feel shame. I want them to feel godly sorrow for something that they coulda, shoulda, or woulda done. But I just feel like once we can name our own stuff, Dave, people can't use it against us, right? So when we are honest, it's like you can't use that against me. Like that's my shortcoming. And then we got to pray that God puts people around us in our life that like a squad or a circle of people that helps us be accountable. Okay, so it doesn't matter what other people do. It matters what we're doing. So when other people are rewarded for irresponsibility, then why should I feel responsible for me? So we'll talk about that when we get back. You're Journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. Thank you to Cunis Country Auto Group, who sponsors this show. We'll be back. Okay, so I dig that Mercy Me song, and what he was saying is bring all your stuff, like all your junk and everything, every message that you tell yourself that says anything negative. And he's reminding us that that's not who you are. It might be what you do in some instances, but it's really not who you are. And so when we are acting less than responsible, and in this case, we're talking about being completely irresponsible, it's not who you are. It's just what you're doing. And the question on the table this morning is, what are you really being in your life? Are you being responsible? Because this is a question we got to keep asking ourselves. And, I don't know how biblically well-versed any of my listeners are, but I can tell you that this has been going on since the very beginning. The book of Genesis talks about, you've heard this, Dave, like, they ate the apple, right? And so I always say it wasn't the apple on the tree, it was the pear on the ground. It was the pear, the P-A-R, sorry, it was not Adam and Steve, it was Adam and Eve. But anyway, so in the very beginning, God had said, like, if you do this, this is going to happen, okay? And in other words, like, if you don't be responsible, you're going to act irresponsible, and you're going to end up feeling some things that who created you, doesn't want you to be feeling. Now, this happens to me sometimes when I'm shopping for Christmas presents. So, Dave, just so you know, the other day I did actually go out to the store, and I'm the kind of person who, like Bob says, are we shopping or are we purchasing? There is such a difference. And you know what? I like to get this perfect gift, and then when my kids don't appreciate it, I just return it. And they'll say to me, like, where's that thing? And I'll say, you didn't act grateful, so I returned it. But anyway, so I put all these like maybe items in my cart where they're like bursting out, and then I stand in line for probably 4 times as long as you need me to or want me to in front of the cashier, holding the item up, asking the opinion of everyone around me. You think my kid will like this? Now, just so you know, I never listen to what you say. I've already have a decision, and I really want you to just talk me out of buying it. So I am the person who brings all the stuff there, and then ends up leaving with like, put this on hold, I'll be back, right? And then I always have things in my cart. Like I had $100 worth of stuff that I didn't put on the register the other day. And I think she thought I was trying to steal it. I mean, I'm blonder than I pay to be, but I would not be stealing at this point in time. So of course I put it on hold with no intention of coming back. But anyway, so I don't even know, is that responsible or irresponsible? It's irresponsible. So Dave is shaking his head and saying, practice what you preach, take your advice. You're not even using it. What the heck? So is it irresponsible when you ask for a return label for every purchase that you do online?
Oh.
Even when you already got them to apply the Q. So here's the thing. So when they won't give me free shipping, it's like, come on. I'll say to the person, like, come on, girlfriend. And she's like, really, I can't. And I said, well, then can I talk to your manager? And she goes, my manager is going to tell you the same thing. And I'm like, all right, well, how about a coupon for like something free? Or how about a free shipping label? Because I'm sure I'm not going to like it and want to return it. How about 2 shipping labels since I'm so, okay. I am very irresponsible with some things. But here's the deal. When Adam and Eve were being irresponsible, okay, because we're talking about how this started at the very beginning. I don't know if you remember this story, but here's what God said. If you do this, this is going to happen, which is really just a pitch for us as people who are raising kids that, you know, we got to be, you know, setting some boundaries, got to be putting some, you know, guidelines in play, and then making sure that the kids know if they do that, this is what's going to happen. So when that happened, when they did what they weren't supposed to do, they went from being responsible to irresponsible and started feeling all these icky things. They started hiding. Dave, hiding is a big thing. When you are not doing the next right thing, it does not cause you to be like out. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that not like, I always think of Avery. Okay. So when she does something wrong, like, I don't care if they're learning to go to the bathroom and they're going in their pants or they ate candy that they weren't supposed to. They just go to this place of hiding. Okay. And so did Adam and Eve. She closes her eyes. And so you can only hope that when she's 16, she still closes her eyes when she's doing something wrong so you can know what she's doing that is being irresponsible. But if you remember what God did, okay, and we got to know this because we are just, you know, Dave's holding up the 2 and it's not the peace sign for Advent. It's 2 more minutes. God went looking for them. He actually walked through the garden and went searching for them. And he asked the question I want you to ask this week. Where are you? That's what he said. Now, guys, he knew where they were. He's God. He's all-knowing. He knows everything. But what God wants us to know when we ask that question is that he already knows. He wants us to accept responsibility for where it is that we're at. Now, if you're Judy Hehr and you're always lost because you're geographically challenged and your GPS is in a constant state of recalculation, that's different. I'm not talking about that kind of where you at. I'm talking about where are you emotionally, physically, mentally. And I'll tell you right now as we end the show, I don't care where you're at in any of those cases. If you are spiritually fit in the place you are supposed to be, feeling the love, the hope, the peace and joy of this Advent season, then you're exactly where you need to be. So, Dave, you can eat all the fruit you want. Pears, apples, whatever. It doesn't matter. Or even those fig cakes. Remember those things? Don't you get those at Christmas? It's a nasty cake. Oh, it's a nasty cake. No, it's like a cake thing.
Oranges. Oranges are good fruit.
Oranges are good.
What's favorite orange?
A little mandarin orange. But not when it's soggy. Okay, so anyway, I think we had a show today, but I'm really not sure. But if not, like, I just want you to be asking yourself this week, where are you? Are you taking full responsibility for the greatness that God has put in your life? So if you're not, then just do it. Or just be honest and be open and be transparent about the fact that you're not. So be hot. Honest, open, and transparent. All the time, every time, because you can, when you can. You have Journeyed with Judy this Sunday morning. See you next week, and then we'll only be 3 days away or 4 days away from Christmas. Oh, my gosh. Jesus is the reason for the season. Keep it hot. Bye.